Hey guys, Shy Got Picks here. Hope everyone's doing well and having a great week. We're here to be breaking down UFC Cannonier versus Rodrigues. We're going to be going over every single fight in the card, the best bets, what fights we should avoid, as well as any prop bets. Last card was very tricky, but this one feels a lot more straightforward. We got clear favorites, some solid underdog spots, and overall the matchups make a lot more sense. Other than that, I'm very excited for this card, but without further ado, let's get right into it. Up next in the card, we got Julia Avila versus Jacqueline Cavalcanti. Avila comes into this 9-3, plus 310 underdog, 36 years old, 5'7" with a 69-inch reach. Jacqueline Cavalcanti is 8-1, negative 420 favorite, 27 years old, 5'8" with a 70-inch reach. Avila is known for her chaotic and relentless fighting style. She charges forward with looping combinations, clinch work, and takedowns, overwhelming her opponents with volume and aggression. Her win over Julia Stoliarenko demonstrated this, to a T, really. She overwhelmed her opponent with pressure to secure takedowns and finished with a submission. But Avila's aggression has a downside. She tends to overcommit when closing the distance, leaving herself open to counters. This flaw was exposed in her loss to Sajar Eubanks, where Eubanks capitalized on her wild entries and punished her with strikes. Another issue for Avila is in her inactivity. She hasn't fought in over 2 years, making it absolutely unclear how much rush she's going to carry into this fight. Her cardio or timing is going to be off. We don't know that. She could struggle to keep up with a technical striker like Cavalcanti. However, Avila, can close the distance and mixing the takedowns. Her grappling will give her a strong chance to control the fight and potentially secure a submission. But with Cavalcanti, on the other hand, she's very, very polished as a striker. She thrives on precision and timing. She uses crisp jabs, kicks, and counter hooks to control range and punish opponents who overcommit, something that Avila frequently does often. Cavalcanti's recent decision win has absolutely highlighted her ability to stay composed under pressure, stuffing the takedowns, and outputting her opponents on the feet. Her hooks and overhand rights are especially dangerous when opponents leave openings, and Avila's tendency to charge forward without protecting her chin can absolutely be a problem here. The main concern for Cavalcanti is her lack of experience against high-level grapplers. Avila's ability to mix takedowns with striking could test Cavalcanti's takedown defense and scrambling abilities, especially if she can get dragged into prolonged grappling exchanges. However, Cavalcanti's lateral movement and range control could help her avoid any of these situations to even possibly even happen, to force Avila into uncomfortable striking exchanges. I think the biggest X factor here is that Avila's ability to execute her game plan early needs to be those grappling. She needs to grapple her. She needs to close the distance and secure takedowns, but I just don't see this. I think Cavalcanti is the absolute lock of the night. I just don't see how she loses here. I think Avila has everything going against her. She's older. She hasn't fought in a long time. She's shorter. She has a reach disadvantage. Cavalcanti's actually really damn good too. Everything's going on the Cavalcanti side. You just have to hammer this with another piece. Add this to a two-legger, right? You have to, because Cavalcanti, this is the lock of the night. I don't see how she could possibly lose here. I think Cavalcanti by decision is a lock. Up next on the card, we got Valter Walker versus Dontel Mays. Valter Walker comes into this 12-1, opens up as a negative 180 favorite, 27 years old, 6'6" with a 78.5-inch reach. Dontel Mays is 11-7, opens up as a plus 150 dog, 33 years old, 6'6" with an 81-inch reach. Valter Walker is a grappler through and through. His entire game plan revolves around getting the fight to the mat, where he can work for submissions or grind out some control time, or even possibly getting a ground and pound win. He's coming off an impressive heel hook finish against Junior Tafa, and while his takedowns aren't technical really at all, his sheer physical strength and persistence really make them a surprisingly effective tool, especially against opponents with poor takedown defense like Mays. But Walker's flaws are really glaring as well. His cardio fades very quickly, and his striking is very amateurish. He shells up when pressured and struggles to throw meaningful volume, often getting struck, absorbing shots without firing back. His ability to win comes down to whether he can secure takedowns and avoid extending striking exchanges. Mays, on the other hand, is a physical, gifted, fighter with knockout power, but his lack of structure and really his fight IQ has consistently held him back. He has an 81-inch reach, allowing him to control range with long jabs and straight punches, but he often wastes that advantage by throwing wild and uncoordinated haymakers. His knockout win over Andrei Arlovski was a reminder of his power, but it also highlighted how random his success can be. He's not setting up those shots strategically. His biggest weakness is his grappling defense. Fighters like Cyril Gane, Rodrigo Nascimento have easily taken him down and kept him there, exposing how passive he is on the ground. He really just fucking stays there. Mays rarely tries to get up back to his feet, often giving up control time without much resistance whatsoever, which absolutely falls into Valter Walker's plan. Only thing about it is, will he have the cardio for it? This ultimately boils down to Walker's ability to exploit Mays' non-existent takedown defense. Mays have been taken down by basic double leg attempts, and Walker's persistence should allow him to secure takedowns as long as he doesn't gas out. Mays' tendency just to stay flat on his back while just staying there will give Walker the chance to rack up control time, even if Walker's ground game isn't that dominant. Mays does have the power advantage on the feet, but his limited output and lack of setups won't make it easy for him to catch Walker clean. Walker's striking is absolutely a concern here, though. If Mays pressures him early, Walker's poor defense could lead him to very dangerous moments here. But given Mays' habit of fighting without a clear plan and really just fighting really dumb, he's unlikely to push the pace effectively. Walker just needs to avoid prolonged exchanges on the feet and stick to the grappling game. I got Walker by decision. It won't be pretty, and it's probably going to be a lot of sloppy moments, but Walker's takedowns and control should carry him to a win. Mays' lack of urgency on the ground is absolutely just the key to victory here. It's going to give absolutely all the time that Walker needs to either just ride it out, even if his cardio slows down, kind of thing. He just needs to take him down, and this is a scary one. I would avoid this. I don't even want to give you prop bets because this is scary. I don't know how you can bet on either side here. And mind you, I hammered Valter Walker against Tafa. I just think Tafa is so garbage. You saw me hammer Teixeira, but I don't know how you can put money on this fight. Give me Walker by decision. Up next on the card, we got Vince Morales versus Elijah Smith. Vince Morales comes into this 16-8, opens up as a plus 190 dog, 34 years old, 5'7" with a 70-inch reach. Meanwhile, Elijah Smith is 7-1, opens up as a negative 230 favorite, 22 years old, 5'9" and 71-inch reach. With Vince Morales, he's a dangerous counter-striker with solid boxing fundamentals and knockout power. He's known for landing sharp combinations when opponents overcommit or leave openings, really, and his KO win over Louis Smolka is a prime example of his finishing abilities. However, Morales struggles when forced to fight off the back foot. Fighters like Chris Gutierrez and Benito Lopez exposed his defensive weaknesses by applying pressure, mixing in some leg kicks, and scoring some takedowns. Morales doesn't check kicks well, really, at all, and tends to freeze when opponents push him back, leading to decreased output and trouble landing clean counters. His takedown defense has been inconsistent, but he's improved at scrambling back to his feet in recent fights. Elijah Smith is extremely powerful, well-rounded prospect with good boxing, strong wrestling, and explosive athleticism. He's the son of the former UFC fighter Gilbert Smith. I've been really high on Elijah for a while now. Elijah has built an impressive record despite being a pro for less than 3 years. He showcased his takedown timing and ground control in the Dana White Contender Series, where he dominated with top pressure and heavy ground and pound. And his speed advantage over Morales will be noticeable on the feet. His main concern is the cardio. He's gassed out before, most notably in his only professional loss, but also in that Tao fight in the Dana White Contender Series as well. He started losing some energy. His cardio started fading away. But those were short notice, don't get me wrong. With the full camp, he's looked much better, so there's hope he can maintain his pace across those 3 rounds. Where it breaks down to is that Smith's pressure and ability to make in those takedowns will likely be a big problem for Morales. Morales thrives when he can control the pace and pick his shots, but Smith's aggressive forward movement will force him to, get into uncomfortable exchanges. Smith's takedown timing is very sharp, and even though his control time isn't always extended, short bursts on the mat will disrupt Morales' rhythm. and win close rounds, I think. Morales' counter-striking gives him a chance, especially early, but Smith's athleticism and speed advantage on the feet will make it very hard for Morales to land clean. Morales is also hittable as well, which plays into Smith's ability to land big shots in the pocket. However, Smith can't afford to overextend himself or gas himself out, really, because if he does, Morales could capitalize that with a knockout win. My prediction here is Smith by decision. His forward pressure and takedown mix and that athletic edge, I think, just really is going to overwhelm Morales over those 3 rounds. Don't get me wrong, Morales is dangerous early. I just think Smith is going to be able to, control the fight and score those key takedowns. I got Smith by decision. I think his wrestling is just going to really be there for all 3 rounds. So just, I just keep it sweet. Give me the over. Goes to the judges. Smith by decision. Up next on the card, we got Gabriel Bonfim versus Khaos Williams. Bonfim comes into this 16-1, negative 225 favorite, 27 years old, 6'1" with a 72.5-inch reach. Meanwhile, Khaos is 15-3, plus 185 dog, 30 years old, 6'0" with a 77-inch reach. So a big, massive reach advantage for Khaos Williams here. 2 stats that I do want to point out. Gabriel Bonfim comes into this 12 wins by submission, and meanwhile, Khaos comes into this with 7 wins by knockout. When it comes to Gabriel Bonfim, he's a lethal submission artist with one of the slickest grappling arsenals in the welterweight division. His ability to chain takedowns together and aggressively hunt for finishes make him a nightmare for any opponent who lacks elite ground defense. Bonfim's striking is also very much underrated. He throws sharp, technical punches with high volume and using his jab and 1-2 combinations to break down opponents before shooting for those takedowns. His biggest flaw is his willingness to engage in those brawls, which can cost him, and it has cost him in his recent loss to Nicholas Dalby. If he can get caught up in a slugfest, he risks walking into Khaos Williams' power shots. With Khaos, on the other hand, he's a knockout artist with raw athleticism and a granite chin. His 77-inch reach advantage, it really does give him an edge here in the striking range. And his ability to end fights with a single punch is absolutely undeniable here. However, his striking lacks refinement, really. Williams relies on power rather than, technical setups, leading him to a low 39% accuracy rate. He often swings very wide, leaving himself wide open to counters, and his defense is essentially his durability. That's really what it is. He absorbs a lot of shots, but rarely shows signs of damage. The major question is whether he can keep the fight standing. While his takedown defense sits at 80%, which is really, really good, he hasn't faced that many grapplers, and Michel Pereira was able to take him down with very little resistance. Michel Pereira is not really doing that to anybody. The key factor in this fight is Bonfim's ability to manage the distance and pick his moments. If he stays disciplined, he should be able to outstrike Williams at range and capitalize on openings for those takedowns. If he gets reckless and trades in the pocket against Williams, who has that power, it's going to be really, really, really bad for him. I got Bonfim. I think he takes this down by submission. He should absolutely nowhere near be negative 225. At the end of the day, I got Bonfim. Am I confident in it? Absolutely not. Khaos Williams is fucking legit. He's not one of these bum fighters that you rarely see often. You get what I'm saying? Like, he actually fights, and he's actually really good. You get what I'm saying? He has good losses as well. His last loss comes to Randy Brown almost 3 years ago, He's not a bum. Khaos Williams should nowhere near be this big of an underdog, especially not against Gabriel Bonfim, who has literally a 5-inch reach disadvantage. If Williams is going to win, it's going to be my knockout. I would avoid the shit out of this bet. I would not touch this fight. I don't care if it's Bonfim. Everybody's so high on these Bonfim brothers. I do not care. This fight, if it's really the first fight in the card, it's an incredible fight. This is a banger of a fight that we should just enjoy and watch. I will not be laying any money on this fight, and you should not be tossing Bonfim in any of these parlays. Khaos Williams is legit. If anything, the best bet might be Khaos Williams plus 3.5. If anything, fuck it. Now it is. That's probably the best. I don't think Bonfim by submission is the best bet. No, it's not. If anything, under 2.5 rounds probably is. But Khaos Williams by knockout really gets there, Fight doesn't go the distance kind of thing. But yeah, I got Khaos Williams plus 3.5 if you're looking for a bet. But I don't think he takes this. It's really tough though, man. It's really a 50-50 fight with somebody going negative 225. So if you're going to be betting this fight, it's just dumb to be taking the Bonfim side. It's just dumb. Even if on tap, look, check Tapology right now. I'm looking at it right now. 47% on Williams, 53% on Bonfim. Meanwhile, Bonfim is negative 230. That's crazy. Give me Bonfim by submission, but I will not be betting this. Up next on the card, we got Rafael Estevam versus Jesus Aguilar. Estevam comes into this undefeated 12-0, as a negative 330 favorite, 28 years old, 5'8", 69-inch reach. Jesus Aguilar is 11-2, plus 260 dog, 28 years old, 5'4", with a 62.5-inch reach. One breaking us down, Rafael Estevam is, a high-level grappler who thrives on, mixing in clean technical takedowns and keeping the opponents pinned on their backs, really. His ability to blend low singles and judo throws and suffocating top control make him a nightmare for anyone who struggles with defensive grappling. In his UFC debut against Charles Johnson, Estevam dominated early with 7 minutes of top control, but he faded in the third round due to cardio issues. A potential weakness against Aguilar, that Aguilar can really target. Estevam's path to victory is very clear here. Avoid Aguilar's guillotine, drag him to the mat, and unleash a punishing ground and pound. On Aguilar, he's a compact brawler who likes to create chaos. His recent 17-second knockout of Shannon Ross really showed how dangerous his overweight hand rate is. However, Aguilar's bread and butter is his guillotine choke as his opportunistic weapon that has earned him multiple submission wins. That being said, his grappling beyond the guillotine is, really questionable, and has seen his loss to Tatsuro Taira, where he was easily controlled and submitted. His key to victories lie in pressuring Estevam, focusing scrambles, and capitalizing on any sloppy takedown attempts or really cardio issues going into the third round. I got Estevam round 2 knockout. I think Aguilar struggles off of his back, where I think they're going to be a deciding factor here. Estevam should be able to take him down early and maintain top control and punish him with some ground and pound. While Aguilar's guillotine is always absolutely a threat, Estevam's grappling awareness should allow him to avoid and dominate this. Then the prop bets to watch here are Estevam by knockout. I think that ground and pound is really the best path to victory here. I can absolutely think he wins by decision, of course. I think everybody's going to have that. But I think that under 2.5 rounds is looking real nice here, too. Give me Estevam by knockout. For the first fight in the card, we got Angela Hill versus Ketlen Souza. Angela Hill comes into this 17-4. Opens up as a negative 125 favorite, 40 years old, 5'3", 64.5-inch reach. Ketlen Souza is 15-4, plus 100 dog, 29 years old, 5'3", with a 63-inch reach. When breaking this down, Angela is an output machine, currently sitting at third all-time for most significant strikes landed in the UFC, of course, on the women's side. Her Muay Thai background brings in looping hooks, elbows, and strong clinch work, but her style relies heavily on volume, with much of her success coming from overwhelming opponents who can't keep up. That being said, Hill's technical flaws, which include looping shots, gaps in striking defense, and declining, physically, just because she's getting older, that could backfire against a powerful, aggressive striker like Souza. In recent fights, Hill has shown some concerning signs of decline. Her footwork, once a reliable tool for maintaining range, it just looked a lot more sluggish. Against Ricci, she stood flat-footed, couldn't get away, from incoming shots, and even gassed out early, which is something we've really never seen before when it comes to Angela Hill. This, regression combined with poor reaction to strikes will be a major issue if Souza lands clean early. With Ketlen Souza, on the other hand, she thrives on pressure and power. She throws crisp, straight punches down the middle and rips the body effectively inside the pocket. She may not have, Hill's output, but her speed and power advantage could overwhelm Hill's during the exchanges here. Souza's win over Yasmin Heideggi showed, that even though she's kind of behind, she can change the fight in an instant with her heavy hands, However, Souza's overall resume is still very thin. Her striking success often comes when opponents leave themselves open. Sometimes Hill has been prone to doing recently. Souza's biggest vulnerability is her grappling defense. Fighters with basic wrestling can take her down, really. When she's on her back, she struggles to scramble effectively. Hill, who has been leaning on the grappling more often, could exploit this. But Hill's cardio concerns make it unclear whether she can maintain control or grind for extended periods without slowing down. My prediction is Souza by decision. Hill's toughness and experience should keep her in the fight for sure, but her slowing in the footwork and declining durability will allow Souza to land the bigger shots and control key exchanges, in my opinion. If Hill can't get her grappling going early, Souza's power will wear her down over the 3 rounds. I think the best bets are Souza by decision, or maybe even possibly by knockout, but I doubt it. I think Hill is very durable. I know she's 40 and she's declining, but she's very, very durable. And really another point here is that the judges really, 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 really hate Angela Hill. They really hate her. I think she won that fight against Ricci. But she has, look at her resume. She's 17-14, but she's an analyst because they know that she didn't lose all those fights. It's kind of crazy, but the judges really hate her. So I got Souza by decision. Up next on the card, we got Jose Delgado versus Connor Mathews. Delgado comes into this 8-1, 5-0 in his last 5 fights, opens up a -230 favorite, 26 years old, 5'11" with a 73-inch reach. Meanwhile, with Connor Mathews, he is 7-2, 3-2 in his last 5 fights, opened up at +190, 32 years old, 5'8" with a 71-inch reach. Now, Delgado, he does have a 2-inch reach advantage. He lands 6.2 significant strikes per minute, 44% accuracy, 1.3 takedowns per 15. Very overall solid fighter. With Connor Mathews, he's landing 3.8 significant strikes per minute, 39% accuracy, 2.1 takedowns per minute, and 71% submission rate. So you see where we're getting here. Delgado thrives in high-paced wars. He's an aggressive pressure fighter. He's an aggressive pressure fighter with a relentless gas tank, combining high-volume striking with some serious knockout power. His style revolves around staying in the opponent's face, ripping hooks to the body and head, and mixing in some knees and kicks whenever he sees an opening. He lands over 6 significant strikes per minute and is known for dragging opponents into deep waters. His last 5 fights include 3 knockout wins, including a vicious knee and punch combination that stopped Ernie Juarez in round 2. But while Delgado's offense is dangerous, his defense isn't flawless whatsoever either. His pressure-heavy approach makes him very hittable, and his only career loss, he struggled against a grappling-heavy opponent who controlled him on the mat. That's exactly what Connor Mathews will try to exploit here. Mathews is a submission machine. 71% of his wins have come via tap out, with the rear naked choke being his go-to weapon. He's excellent at capitalizing on mistakes and has 2 first-round submission wins in his last 5 fights, including a 48-second choke over Josh Hardy. But here's where the problems really start. Mathews struggles against fast, high-volume strikers. His knockout loss to Dennis Bazooka exposed major weaknesses in his ability to close the distance, and his loss to Francis Marshall showed how difficult it is for him to secure takedowns against precision strikers. Now, mind you, losing to Bazooka is not a good loss at all. The biggest concern for Mathews is his durability. He gets hit a lot, doesn't move his head well, and reacts poorly to clean shots. Similarly to Anthony Smith, really. He's extremely tough, but every time he eats a hard shot, there's a visible reaction. And against someone like Delgado, that's going to be a major issue. Mathews also doesn't handle pressure very well. He's been pushed back in multiple fights, and when forced to fight off of his back foot, he becomes significantly less effective. Mathews' best path to victory is his wrestling, but there's 2 key issues here. His cardio doesn't hold up well over extended periods of time. After 10 minutes, his cardio kind of really fades. And Delgado's takedown defense is definitely improved. While he was out-wrestled in his lone career loss, he's been actively working on that hole, of course, and even incorporating offensive wrestling into his own game plan. If Mathews can't hold Delgado down, he's absolutely in for a very rough and long night. Delgado, on the other hand, he has a massive cardio edge. He pushes an exhausting pace and doesn't slow down. Mathews has struggled when forced into prolonged striking exchanges. And if Delgado keeps the fight standing, his constant forward movement and high volume combinations will break Mathews down, I think. I think Delgado by knockout is absolutely the way to go. I think that's the only way that everybody's going to go. Let's be honest. I think Mathews will likely land some clean shots early, but Delgado's pressure, power, and superior cardio is absolutely going to take over here. And I just think that's going to overwhelm him for all 3 rounds here. Really all up until the fight ends, really, So give me Delgado by knockout. I also got under 2.5 rounds, and fight doesn't go to decision. Up next on the card, we got Rodolfo Viera versus Andre Petroski. Viera comes into this 10-2, -215 favorite, 35 years old, 6'0", 73-inch reach. Andre Petroski is 12-3, +175 dog, 33 years old, 6'0", and a 73-inch reach. When talking about Andre Petroski, he's a really strong wrestler and has excellent top control, really. He does his best when taking opponents down. When he's in dominant positions, he usually holds them there. But when on the mat, he's not really a submission threat, especially not at the UFC level. He's a very physical fighter and uses his explosiveness very well to secure takedowns and early. But his biggest weakness is his gas tank and how limited he is when striking. When he is striking, it is very predictable. His big looping over right hand is mainly his go-to weapon. He does have a lot of power, but he's very sloppy with the technique, and he does miss. And when he does miss, he wastes a lot of energy. He does fade into the fight And we saw that against Gerald Mearshart, Joseph Holmes, where he slowed down significantly, especially in the later rounds, even though he had a dominant grappling positions. If this fight goes past the first round, Petroski could find himself in some serious trouble. When regarding Viera, he's one of the most decorated BJJ specialists in MMA today. His submission game has always been, ahead of everybody, really. It's been elite. And once he's on top position, he usually ends the fight very quickly. His striking has never been that great, but he's technically more refined than Petroski, in my opinion. When he throws, everything is straight, and when he has a solid jab and he doesn't really overextend himself with wild swings, Straight punches usually beat looping hooks like Petroski does, and I think this is going to become a big factor here, especially if the fight stays on the feet. Viera's biggest problem has always been his cardio as well. His submission loss last time to Fluffy exposed his early cardio problems, and his fight, like when he fought Dustin Stoltzfus and Chris Curtis, he did show that while his gas tank isn't the best, it's no longer a glaring weakness as like it's always been, so he is working on it. He is improving on it. If you can maintain a steady pace, I think you'll have the clear advantage in both the striking and grappling. The key question in this fight is who can sustain their game plan longer. Petroski has a solid takedown defense, but he might be able to fend off those submission attempts. But if he starts getting tired, Viera eventually is going to capitalize on that. On the other side, Petroski, if he lands clean while they're on the feet, especially early, he does have enough power to hurt Viera and potentially finish him as well. But especially before his cardio ends, because that's his liability here. My prediction is Viera by submission. I do think Petroski's power make him very dangerous early, but his tendency to fade will always be his downfall. Once Viera starts landing takedowns or really forcing Petroski into those grappling exchanges, and extended grappling exchanges, the skill gap in BJJ scale is going to become very clear, I think. Expect Viera to start dominating later in the rounds, and I think he's going to eventually find a submission win here over Petroski as he slows down. The prop bets are to watch include Viera by submission, but ultimately Viera at -200 is a solid parlay piece. Give me Viera by submission. Up next on the card, we got Ismael Bonfim versus Nazim Sadykhov. Of course, Bonfim's brother. Bonfim comes into this 20-4. He's 29 years old. Opens up as a slight favorite, -145, 5'8", 71-inch reach. Meanwhile, Sadykhov is 9-1-1. He had a draw in his last fight. He's 30 years old. Opens up as a +120 underdog, 5'10" with a 69-inch reach. So a 2-inch slight disadvantage here. Bonfim lands 5.14 significant strikes per minute, 47% accuracy, but he's also absorbing 3.67 strikes per minute. He also has 0.36 takedowns per 15 minutes with a 64% takedown defense, so he does utilize that a little bit. With Sadykhov, he's landing 3.98 significant strikes per minute, 43% accuracy, absorbs 4.15 strikes per minute, 1.13 takedowns per 15, and a 60% takedown defense. So kind of similar in numbers. With Ismael Bonfim, he enters this fight looking to rebuild his momentum after a tough loss to Benoit Saint-Denis. He's a high output striker with sharp boxing, excellent counter striking, and he's very patient, methodical approach kind of a fighter. Bonfim's best weapon is his precision. His ability to read opponents, time counters, and punish reckless entries make him a very dangerous opponent against aggressive fighters. His highlight reel knockout over Terrence McKinney and clean striking against Vince Pinchel showcased how deadly he can be when he finds his rhythm, But there's a key flaw in his game. He's too much of a perfectionist. Bonfim doesn't chase finishes, really. Even when his opponents are hurt, which sometimes lets them recover, really. Against Pichel, he landed clean shots multiple times, but never followed up aggressively. But while this helps conserve energy, it also limits his ability to break opponents down. His defensive grappling is also very solid, but he was overwhelmed by Benoit Saint-Denis, his size, and his pressure. Though that was a stylistic nightmare against a much bigger opponent, in my opinion. On the other hand, Sadykhov is a complete opposite, really. He thrives in ugly fights. He's an aggressive brawler who moves forward constantly, absorbing damage to force high-paced exchanges. But his biggest issue is that he's extremely hittable. Sadykhov absorbs over 4 strikes per minute and lacks head movement. He making him a prime target for sharp counters strikers like Bonfim. He's shown resilience, but his defense is his glaring weakness. Against Slaviklaus, he was getting pieced up early before landing a huge head kick. Against Evan Elder, he was down 0-2 before a doctor stoppage saved him. Sadykhov's wrestling is serviceable, but he struggles to maintain control on the mat. He isn't consistent, consistently looking for a submission there, and often allows his opponents to scramble back up when he does take them down. Even if he attempts takedowns here, Bonfim's 64% takedown defense should hold up, in my opinion. If this stays standing, Bonfim has a clear technical advantage here. Bonfim by decision is absolutely the way I'm going here. Sadykhov's durability will likely keep him in the fight, but Bonfim's clean counters and superior shot selection and defensive awareness should allow him to outpoint Sadykhov over the 3 rounds. I do know that a lot of people are going to be on the Sadykhov side, and I think it's a major fade on Bonfim, and I get it. I get it. There's things off about Bonfim that, he shouldn't be. I don't know how to say what I'm trying to say. Like, a lot of people are fading Bonfim. How about that? But truthfully, and I can understand why, I really do. But truthfully, I'm fading Sadykhov. And not only am I fading Sadykhov, I think Bonfim is good. So I think this is a really good bet here at -145. I understand. It's kind of scary because it's Bonfim. I don't think it's another fraud check moment. I just don't. Give me Bonfim. I got him by decision, and I wouldn't be surprised if he knocks him out as well. But I got Bonfim by decision. Up next in the card, we got Edmen Shahbazyan versus Dylan Budka. Shahbazyan comes into this 13-5, -285 underdog at opening, 27 years old, 6'2", 75-inch reach. Meanwhile, Dylan Budka is 7-4, plus 230 at opening, 25 years old, 6'0" with a 75-inch reach. Usually I start this off with breaking this down, but I really want to start this off with Dylan Budka is absolutely dirt. I don't know why he's on the fucking roster. But then again, Shahbazyan is so unreliable. So this is really fucking hard to choose. So let's break it down. This is a high-stakes matchup where both of these fighters are essentially fighting for their spot in the UFC. Let's be honest. While Shahbazyan's fall from prospect to gatekeeper has been very dramatic, this is still a major step down in competition for him. Budka, on the other hand, has shown little at the UFC level outside of a clinch-heavy control with minimal effectiveness, really. Shahbazyan is a fast-twitch, explosive striker who shines in early rounds. His power, variety of attacks, and ability to pick apart opponents at range make him a dangerous first-round finisher. He's taken out mid-level opponents like AJ Dobson now. Dalcha Lungiambula, in brutal fashion, actually. But his problem has always been clear, his gas tank. When fighters get dragged into later rounds, he fades very badly, as seen in losses to Derek Brunson, Jack Hermanson. While his takedown defense is decent, his inability to fight off relentless pressure and chain wrestling and constant wrestling and pressuring, and to recover from that adversity has led to his downfall. Now, Dylan Budka, his path to victory is also straightforward. Make this absolutely ugly. Push Shahbazyan against the cage. Wear him down. The issue is that Budka hasn't been able to do any of that at an effective level at the UFC at all. He's a grinder without true finishing ability, and his wrestling is just it's meh. It's not that good. It's average, I guess, Hasn't really translated against higher competition at all in the UFC, even in favorable grappling positions. Budka often fails to generate real offense. Worse is his cardio isn't much better than Shahbazyan's. If Budka can't secure dominant top control early, he's going to be a sitting target on the feet. The X factor in this fight is Budka's lack of real danger on the ground. Unlike the strong wrestlers who have exposed Shahbazyan in the past, Budka isn't a proven finisher or a submission threat at all. If he spends too much time stalling in the clinch, Shahbazyan will have him opening and If he spends too much time stalling in the clinch, Shahbazyan will have openings to disengage and get back to striking range, where the skill gap is really big, actually. This is an extremely favorable matchup with Shahbazyan. Budka's striking defense is porous, and he's slow. He's slow to close at distance. He doesn't really land damage. I don't know, man. Budka, do I think? Unless Budka can completely neutralize Shahbazyan in the clinch, This should end violently, early, in knockout fashion against Budka. I don't know why he's on the roster still. Every time I look at him, I get shocked that he's fucking 6'4". I'm shocked that he's a middleweight. He doesn't look like he belongs. Like, I know he has a lot of potential because he's 25 years old, but you're not going to get it here, man. You're only going to get fucked up in the UFC. And I don't know why he's still here. Maybe they're not. There's no way they're trying to rise the stock of Edmen Shahbazyan, right? I don't get it, man. The best bets include Shahbazyan by knockout, possibly round 1 or 2, but just knockout in general is the best bet, in my opinion. Under 1.5 rounds. Both of these guys have extreme cardio issues, so expect an early finish one way or the other. And if you really, really want to get a fucking crazy, super, a high odds play, maybe Budka by decision if you really, really think that Shahbazyan's that ass, But give me Shahbazyan by knockout. Up next on the card, you got the co-main event, Kattar versus Youssef Zalal. Kattar comes to this 23-8, opens up as a plus 310 underdog, 36 years old, 5'11" with a 72-inch reach. Meanwhile, Youssef Zalal is 16-5-1. Opens up as a negative 400 favorite, 28 years old, 5'10" with a 72-inch reach. Kattar comes in 5.19 significant strikes per minute, 42% accuracy, absorbs 7.17 strikes per minute. That's mainly because of Holloway, 91% takedown defense. With Youssef Zalal, 2.62 significant strikes per minute, 45% accuracy, absorbs 2.8 strikes per minute, 2.75 takedowns per minute, 47% takedown accuracy. Kattar is one of the best pure boxers in the division, known for his relentless, pure, and crisp combinations and elite durability. He's been in wars against some of the best in the division, trading blows with Max Holloway, Josh Emmett, and Arnold Allen. While his striking volume is among the best at the featherweight, his biggest weakness has always been against grapplers, against Aljamain Sterling and Zabit. Against Aljamain Sterling and Zabit Magomedsharipov, he struggled to keep the fight standing, which led him to losing rounds due to control time. But here's the key question. Does Zalal have the skill level to replicate what elite grapplers have done to Kattar? Zalal is a well-rounded grappler who thrives on chaining takedowns together and hunting for submissions. He's comfortable with mixing in strikes, but his biggest strength is getting the fight to the mat, really. When he's on top, he's patient, looking for openings to advance position and secure a choke. However, his wrestling hasn't always been dominant. He struggled to impose his game plan against higher level opposition. While his submission skills are real, his ability to keep control time against someone with Kattar's takedown defense is absolutely questionable here. The biggest factor in this fight is striking volume. Zalal's low output is a huge red flag against someone like Kattar, who throws in high volume, pressures opponents from the opening bell. If Zalal can't consistently land takedowns, he'll be forced into a striking battle with Kattar as a massive... All right, let me start this up. The biggest factor in this fight is striking volume. Zalal's low output is a huge red flag against someone like Kattar, who throws in high volume and pressures opponents from the opening bell. If Zalal can't consistently land takedowns, he'll be forced into a striking battle with Kattar. And I think Kattar has a massive edge there. Even if Zalal has success early, his cardio has been suspect when forced into high-paced fights. Kattar by decision is my pick. Call me a dummy. I don't care. Fuck it. I'm not on the Zalal train. I'm sorry. Not against Kattar. Kattar fights against elite fighters. That's why he's losing. He lost to Max Holloway. He lost to Josh Emmett. He lost to Arnold Allen. And he lost to Aljamain Sterling. Youssef Zalal is facing low-level fighters. Mind you, he didn't fight. He got cut from the UFC. Comes back, beats Billy Quarantillo, Jarno Aarons, and Jack Shore. You cannot tell me that those fighters are on the same level as Kattar, especially not to get Zalal at negative 400. That's crazy. That is insane. Kattar is an elite fighter, and to be disrespecting him at plus 320, give me Kattar. I don't fuck that. Give me Kattar. There's no way. This is by far a negative 150 odds for Zalal max. I don't care about the history. I don't care what's happened in the last 3 years. I don't care. Kattar is a better fighter. It's just that simple. But Zalal has a lot of momentum going on his side. So, from the Zalal side, I don't blame you. But that won't be me. Give me Kattar by decision. Up next on the card, we got Cannonier versus Gregory Rodrigues. Cannonier comes into this 17-8, plus 155 dog, 4 years old, 5'11" with a 77.5-inch reach. Rodrigues comes into the 16-5, negative 190 favorite, 32 years old, 6'3" with a 75-inch reach. On the Cannonier side, he's one of the hardest hitters in the middleweight division, and his experience against elite competition does set him apart from Rodrigues. He's always been a really good counter-striker, and he has one of the most elite calf kicks in the game. He maintains calculated pressure, which I think will be his advantage against Rodrigues, since Rodrigues is really just so reckless. It's all about, will Cannonier capitalize on this? His knockout wins over Brunson and Hermanson really prove that he can time a perfect counterpunch to an overly aggressive fighter like Rodrigues, and Rodrigues has a history of leaving his chin wide open. On the Rodrigues side, he's an extremely dangerous fighter with very clean striking, powerful wrestling, and a very aggressive pace. He's on a very good run right now, but his biggest flaw in his game has always been his defensive recklessness. He loves to be in barn burners, and that's a very dangerous game to be playing against someone like a counter-striker like Cannonier. We've seen Rodrigues get knocked out before, like fighters by Fajeda. And he's been rocked in multiple fights due to his poor defensive habits. If he trades wild shots with Cannonier, I think he's going to get knocked out, While Rodrigues does have the edge in wrestling and BJJ, he's just not the most disciplined with it. He prefers to be striking. He loves to be in brawls, which I think is going to cost him here with Cannonier. Jared has shown solid takedown defense, and Rodrigues is going to have to commit to a wrestling-heavy approach if he wants to win. If he stands with Cannonier, yes, he can absolutely knock him out, but he could also be knocked out. Jared's path to victory is keeping the fight standing and using those calf kicks to control the range and catch Rodrigues with a perfect counterpunch when it's getting wild, Rodrigues' path to victory is to close his distance very early, uses chain wrestling to control Cannonier before Jared can find his rhythm. Jared has fought and beat some of the best in the division, and meanwhile, I think Rodrigues is taking his first real step up in competition. The biggest question mark is whether Rodrigues is going to stay disciplined or is he going to engage in a big brawl here. If he brawls, Jared's patience and power, I think, is going to make him pay here. Jared's also shown very good cardio. He survived through 5 rounds before. Rodrigues has never gone past 15. If this fight goes on after, past round 3, I think Jared is going to be able to outpace him and use his experience and win either in the later rounds or by decision. Ultimately, I got Jared by knockout. I think Rodrigues' defense is just too suspect. The best bet is going to be that the fight doesn't go to distance. I think this is going to be a very fun fight to watch. I'm very excited. I got Jared by knockout. I'm sure a lot of you disagree, and I'm sure I'm on the island on the last 2 picks, Yeah, I got Kattar and I got Jared. We'll see. I might be dumb again. Let's find out. But I got Jared by knockout. All right, guys, that wraps up our breakdown for UFC Cannonier versus Rodrigues. Hopefully this video helped you out, get some insight into the fights, the best bets, and the matchups to watch out for. Remember, picks aren't bets, so always be strategic with your plays. If you enjoyed the breakdown, make sure to like, comment, and subscribe to the channel. It really helps me out. And don't forget to drop your predictions in the comments below. I'd love to hear what you guys think. We've got a Patreon link below where I post my actual bets. So if you haven't joined yet, now's the time. Thanks for tuning in. Good luck on your bets, and I'll catch you in the next one.